Going on, YouTube family? T.O. here, Simplistic Fishing, back at you tonight for some more lake breakdowns. That's right, we're going to stay with Lake Belton. This time we're on part two. We're working our way up the east side. Got some pretty cool stuff in this video. Lots of bluffs, lots of rock formations, stuff like that. I know we're going to be able to put you on some fish out here. Stick around, see what we got. Here we go. Well, let's jump back into Lake Belton really quick. I'm going to click this button and zoom us in and just talk to you real quick about the left-hand side over here. I'm going to stretch this out just a little bit and show you how we have this thing broke down. Now, if you went through the first video, this is just going to be a repeat, but just want to kind of go over this really quick. We do have it broke down by a couple different categories. The Texas Park and Wildlife Fish Finders, those are the ones we talked about on the introduction video. There were 4 of them out there. We also have channels and ditches, so we mark all the channels and ditches so that way you can position your boat correctly out there. We also have rocks. There's lots of different rock formations, rock points, rock piles, all kinds of good stuff to fish on this lake. There's also quite a bit of wood, so different types of laydowns, stick-ups, things like that. And then we have just random cover that's out there as well. So it might be tires, debris, just all kinds of different stuff to take a look at. And then last but not least, you also have all the different boat ramps that are out on the lake. And you guys have heard me talk about boat ramps a lot and how effective they are. So let's go ahead and we'll highlight everything again. And I'm going to double click and we're going to zoom in here. And we are going to go over here right off of this point. So right here off this point is where we stopped last time. If you want to view the video where we covered it from the dam, basically on video 1, we started at the dam. We worked our way all the way up to this point. If you want to look at that, just click on the video up at the top, or you can go back out to our Lake Breakdowns playlist and pick them up there. All right, so I'm going to go over here and I'm going to pull this over to my left. And I'm also going to go up to the history and I'm going to take this all the way back to 2 of 2015. So that's the image that I want to take a look at, 2 of 2015. And let's zoom in here and let's first just look right here off this point, what it was about this point that I really liked. And that obviously was this rock that's here. You can see you've kind of got a sandy type, dirty bank line, maybe a little bit of rock, but nothing really big. But then right here off this point, you've got a really good chunky rock, real good place to find fish for sure. I also love the fact that it's coming right off of a channel swing. So it's definitely going to be a place where the fish are going to collect. This is a really good spot to take a look at for fish. Now, as we're moving on down the bank line down here, really we get into a lot of bluff walls in this area. So it's really going to be more about the deeper bluff walls on this side and then the rock formations. So as we come down the bank line, I'm just pointing out where the special rock formations are. So you can see right here, these are really good rocks. They have some really good shade behind them. They're off of a point. They're fairly isolated. All the things about that just make that look really good. You've also got some pretty good rock right around in here, this area. If you look really closely, there is a little stick up there. I don't know if I'd take a whole boat trip just to go fish that one stick up, but if I was in the area, I might go over there and flip a few things at it. And this point looks kind of interesting too. Notice how rounded it is. There could possibly be some sort of a little ledge or something going on right in here. So that might be worthy of fishing just because it's a point. But you've also got some pretty good stuff over here as well. You've got some pretty good rocks here, some really good boulders right in there as well. And then we get down in here into this pocket right here. And I'm going to back up here in just a minute and show you guys where I am. But I want to get just a little bit further over here. We've got a couple more rock piles that are right in here. And then if you look right over here, right off the edge of this park road, there's a really good brush pile going on right in here. It looks really, really good. So you crappie fishermen, you might really like that. But bass fishermen, make sure you go check that out as well. So that is right by Rogers Park. Let me pull this back. This is where we started at. And we just kind of went down that bank line. That was where that brush pile was. So we're going to go over here back where Rogers Park is. It's going to be on the other side. You got some pretty good riprap going along. Right in here around the boat ramp, you've got a really good boat ramp here that has some really good rock around it. You can see it. You've got the riprap. That's going to be a good one to fish around. Got some pretty good riprap down here around this little pocket that's back in here as well. And then you don't see too much until you get a little bit further up here. Now, if you're fishing the bank line, you're probably going to position your boat on this bank line right on the sweet spot of where you need to be fishing. So most people are going to position their boats right here and they're casted over. and literally their boat will be right on the prime spot. The prime spot's going to be right there where that ledge is. You can see it's got a pretty good shade line that's producing, and that just looks like a really good spot that the fish would collect on. We come over here off this point. I didn't see too much going on from a big drop or a ledge or any kind of rock piles or anything. So nothing going on right there. Looks like you may have some pretty good depth here. You've got a pretty good bluff wall going on right in here, and it looks pretty deep. So you definitely want to take a look at it. The other reason why I know it's a bluff wall is because of the shade lines. If you look at the shade lines from the trees, you can definitely see that you've got some pretty good height here on the land compared to where the lake is. Now, I talked about this on the top five baits as well, how shade lines are so important. These are some of those key areas that when we get here and deeper into the summer that you really want to pay attention to and you really want to fish. Fish these shade lines wherever you can find these areas where the shade is and no other part of the lake has shade. Like let's say, just looking at this picture here, there's literally 3 spots that have a lot of shade. Everything else is just being tagged by the sun. And that's going to be this one, and this one. And those are going to be the primary spots that you want to fish in the summertime when it gets that hot, because you're going to get that shade. That water's going to be a little bit cooler. So make sure you fish in this area around here. I think that's going to really treat you well in the summertime. All right, so I'm going to move on down. We're going to go over here by this little point down here. This is by Water's Edge COA. There's a real good rock pile right off the edge over here. You can see it. Some real good boulders and things like that. Those fish love to hang around stuff like this. This point just looks really good the way it sets up with the type of rock that it has on it. And if you get a little bit further back in here, there's a little secondary point that points out. It's got a pretty good little boulder around it as well. I can see that being a good spot to check out. Now, as we move further back here into this little, I guess we're going to call it a cove or an arm or something. This would be more the cove, and this is more the arm. Let's go back into this cove real quick, and we'll work our way up that arm. So as we already talked about the rock that was there. We come off this point. There's some more bigger, chunkier rocks and things like that. You come over here, you got a little secondary point. And if you come right in here, you'll notice, again, we've got a pretty good shade line. So we've got some sort of a ledge going on right down in here. There's a little bit of debris up there as well, but there's some sort of a ledge or something right in here. You want to go look at that for sure. Obviously depending on what time of the year it is, but that's more of a spring, fall thing. That's going to be a real good spot to look at. You got some pretty little creeks that go back here. Nothing too special that that I could pick up from Google Earth. Now, as we moved further up here, there's some interesting rock going on right here. Notice how there's some sort of a transition area going right off of this point, or something's going on here. Maybe just swing by it, scan around, see if you can find anything in there. You've got a pretty good little ditch back in here. So when you get late into the fall and they're pushing way back into those coves, definitely go back in there and see if you can find them pinning up shad and things back in there. You've got a pretty good rock pile right here. Maybe not a rock pile, but a very large rock that's sticking up out of the water. Plus, you've got some pretty good depth right in here. I think that's going to be a good spot for you. The other thing that I like about that is that's a really good secondary point, or really, I guess you could almost call it a main lake point. I guess main lake would be more in here, so this is more secondary. But anyway, it's just a real good point the way that it sets up. All right, so let's keep moving up, and we're going to go back in here to the Cedar Creek. Again, you've got another one of those ledges going on right in here, and you can see the shade line. So that's going to be a good spot to fish. Got some pretty good shade lines right in here too in the summertime. And then moving back into this Cedar Cove, there is some standing timber, but it's kind of sparse. You've got a little bit right in here. Some pretty good shade lines that you could definitely mess around with, but nothing major for me to mark for you here. There's a little swim area there. Right beside the swim area, there's a little bit of rock up in there. We'll talk about that in a minute. I'm getting distracted. So I'm going to keep moving on down here. Now, here's where the creek makes a river or creek, whatever it is. It makes a good swing. You can definitely tell it's swinging right here. So basically where that shade line starts there to right here, that's going to be a high percentage area to be able to catch some fish. So you definitely want to look there, and then also swing up to the top and check out these rocks up here, right here by the boat ramp that's over here as well. All that looks really good. Now, as we get further back in here, I'm just going to go and just show you these few more points. You've obviously got the tracks that show where the creeks come in, the rivers come in. But right here off of this point, the secondary point right here, that's going to be a good point to fish. Check that one out. It's got some really good rock on it. Got some rock on this swing that's over here as well. And then you can tell, the creek channel swings like this. And then now you've got rock on this side. So if you're fishing this, maybe fish this point, come down and fish this, come down and fish this, and then maybe come down and fish this little bluff wall here as well, where this main channel swing is, and really focus in on where that rock is. So all those areas, I mean, this lake just has tons of areas to be able to find fish. Let's keep moving up a little bit more. Let's go over here right around where that park was. We talked where the ramp was there. Let's move up here. We've got that rock pile that we talked about there. That looks like a little fishing platform or something going on over there. You got some standings, timber, or something going on, so just be careful when you're back in here. But you've got some, like, I guess just scattered rock piles. Right here, you've got a really good pile of rocks that's a little bit different than everything else around it. You've got the same thing right in here as well, but this is a little bit more just a specific area. And then really right up in here, as we come back out of this creek, so I'm all the way over here now, as we come out of the creek right in here, a real good point with some really good chunky rock on it. You can definitely tell, you can see the tops of it here, even when the lake is really low. So something's going to be really good there. And I haven't showed you guys, but we've been really focusing on 2015. So when you go out there, just remember things are going to look a lot different. So if I kick us up to 2021 here, that point's going to look way different than it looked when we were looking at it in 2015. That boat ramp, everything's just going to look a lot different. So just be aware of that these points that we're showing you, we're able to show you that because we're able to draw that water back to 2 of 2015 or wherever we were and be able to show you that exact image. And of course, now it's not wanting to let me get back to where I was. So right there, you see that. All right, so let's move a little bit further up in here. When we get up in here, we've got some laydowns that are up in here, and there's also some rock that's way far back in here. So again, in the fall, when they start pushing the shad way back up in these pockets, those are going to be good areas to look at and see if you can find some fish in those areas. I think you'll really find that, when you can find them in those pockets, they'll load up in there and you'll be able to catch a ton of fish when I push them back up in there. All right, so we're going to keep moving around this point. We're going to come back over here. Now we're at the Cedar Ridge Park campground. We get over there to this side of the boat ramp, you've got some pretty good rocks right in here. Notice how it's a lot different than everything else around it. You've also got some good riprap right in here. Got the boat ramp, some more riprap, some more rock pile, a little isolated rock pile over there just to the left of the boat ramp as well. So just some nice little isolated areas there. I like how those set up. And as we go up in here to this little arm that's up in here, you got some pretty good rock here. This looks like where the swing goes here, and it probably swings in here as well, and that's what's creating that rock that's in there. But right in there, and then of course right where it swings, anywhere you can find where the creek channel swings or the river channel swings, and it slams up against the bank line, those are always key spots to fish. The other thing I want to point out here, which I've been wearing you guys out with lately, I think it's because I'm recording this and it's July 15th and it's like 100 degrees outside, is the shade lines that's being created right here. So not only do you have a channel swing, but you've also got some really good shade lines that are being created there. All right, so we're going to move up. Again, another good channel swing with some good shade lines. And then we've just got some laydowns, some rock, and then some additional debris that's a little bit further up in here, but nothing too special that, when you get way up in there. All right, so we're going to move on down and we're going to swing around this point. Let's talk about these things. These are just kind of the isolated rock that we've been seeing, where everything's kind of the same, and then all of a sudden it just changes out of nowhere. So it's just a transition area where you've got the bigger rock, and then it kind of goes back to that smoother rock as you move down here until you get off around this point. This point looks like it's got some pretty good rock around it. And for whatever reason, it just looks a little jagged right in that area. So it's definitely worth taking a look at right there off that point. Obviously, I would probably focus more attention over here on this ledge. But if the wind was blowing right, I might pay more attention to this point. So you really never know. All right, so we're swinging back out of that Cedar Creek. We're going to swing over here right off the edge of this point, which that point looks pretty good as well. But you've got a little point over here. So this may be one that maybe not as many people fish, but it's got some pretty good rock off of it, some really good chunky rock right off the edge of that point. That could produce some fish for you for sure. All right, so I'm going to go a little bit further up. Let's go. We're going to finish up in this cove, and then that's going to wrap us up for this video. And then we'll come back for our next video, and we'll start right up there where that rock is. So let's move over here off of this point. And as you can see, when we get up here into this point, it's all been about rocks so far, rocks and ramps pretty much. But when we get up in here, we actually have a little bit of timber up here. So we've got a few laydowns that are over in here that you could fish. You kind of see them scattered throughout. a little bit of stick ups going on and things like that, some more laydowns back in here. And then you've got a boat ramp that's back there as well that you could check out as well. Then we're going to move up. And again, as we move up this bank line, I didn't mark it for you guys, but here's, if the stick up thing is on, you've got some standing timber in here that you could fish around, get your crankbaits out and bang around those sticks and see what you can find, or jerk baits, stuff like that. You might be surprised at what you can find along that bank line. Then as we move up here, let's just go and finish out into that pocket. Sounds a lot better. So we've got some interesting rock formations. Notice how everything changed. So earlier it was kind of scattered, flat, and now we get into more of this bluff type wall formation. Some really good rock right in there, a really good boulder right there that you could fish around. It's got some really good shade around it. And then right here, you've got this point that looks really good too. It looks like, I hope you can fish back behind there, but if you can, that could be a really good spot right there. I love how that point sets up right off that dock or whatever the heck that is that we're seeing there at the top. And then you've got some pretty good rock back in those coves as well. So let's go ahead and finish there. Well, actually, I'll just put a point right here on this dock so I don't forget it. And we'll start there on our next video. And make sure you go down, you hit that subscribe button for me. It would really help. We only have 13% of our viewers hitting the subscribe button. 83% don't hit the subscribe button. You'd be surprised at what we have out here on our site. We have broken down over 70 different lakes in Texas. We've got all of those videos out on our lake breakdown playlist. So make sure you go check that out. And then I also do live fishing videos as well. So if you like to watch us do live catches, you can check those out. And last but not least, we do a lot of the top baits for the month, some bass fishing 101 stuff. So just all kinds of good stuff to help you guys catch more fish. Until next time, guys, I hope you catch your PB. Take it easy.